Welcome to Down in SA, aka Down in San Antonio, Texas, that is. Here you will be a part of the lives of the cool kids who grew up here in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. From the music, culture, society, Big Red, hippo sodas, and breakfast tacos, you will learn the cool elements of our hidden society. So grab a long neck or a shot of tequila, light up a doobie, and say, screw the Alamo. This is who we really are, the cool kids down in SA.
Don't record that.
The recording just started. Hey, that's a good slogan for Planned Parenthood.
Great.
No, the listeners have really enjoyed listening to our interview with you, and almost all of them had never heard of you before. They were fascinated by your family history, the history of a lot of the beginnings of performance art, the different artists, how they all kind of merged together and different thought patterns and whatever. I mean, they were just totally intrigued. So thank you for meeting with us here again today. So my name is Chick. You're listening to, let me do a countdown. 3, 2, 1. My name is Chick, welcoming all of our audience across the world to Down in SA. I'm here once again with artist George Hornert. Spent many a decades in San Antonio. Currently lives up in Brooklyn. He's actually been up there for quite a few decades, and proud to have him as a friend and one of the most hilarious individuals I've ever met outside of Robin Williams. So he's right up there at the notch, man.
So putting too much pressure on me.
No, the pressure's this is how hilarious George is. I've never had a moment where I've dined with him, with a group of people, or with him individually, and he has this way of delivering a punchline at a dinner table right when people have food in their mouth and watching them spit it out because they're laughing so hard. That's
and whatever comes out of their nose, too. You know?
Almost every person that knows George can say, yes, that has happened to me. But there's like two parts to this interview that I'd like to do. One of them is going to be George Hornert, artist in New York. And the first part of this is taking your experience in, which is really a living art experience. And what I mean by that is we met at the Magic Time Machine. I met you, Don Evans, Joe Pugliese, Cheryl, Joanne, Bart Nichols, Richard Rodney, Gary Mueller, Joe De Los Santos, Steve Leary, Tarzan. I mean, just, Pete Keeney, Rob Reyna, Mark Spitz, Bill Lloyd, and his brother Mongo.
Bill Lloyd. Bill Lloyd, his brother Mongo Lloyd.
And it just so happened that that's what his name was. And, because I can't believe you call that guy a Mongoloid. Well, that's his name. Mongo Lloyd. And his brother, I mean, he looked exactly like Mark Spitz. I mean, that was like the biggest selling point, one of the biggest selling points of the Magic Time Machine. How did you come to working at the Time Machine? What brought you in there? What was your character, and how was that experience?
I think Joe Pugliese was somehow connected with the restaurant business at the time, and he told Don and I about this new restaurant opening up. And he was told that everyone was going to be wearing costumes, waiting tables and singing songs and all that stuff. And they said anyone who shows up in a costume will hire. So Don and we were I was working on this movie. It was kind of a sci-fi spoof. It's called Pinfu Stiffamayu, and that stood for Penis Monsters from Outer Space, Down from Mars, and Up Uranus.
I remember that.
And and then we had made these big paper mache penis, heads that we wore, and anyway, it was a crazy sci-fi thing, and we had costumes. We had made costumes for our movie. So Don and I both showed up in that costume, in our costumes, and they hired us. However, they hired me as a waiter, and I was the very last waiter hired, and they hired Don as a busboy. And that kind of pissed him off, but it turned out that the guy who was interviewing us was somebody that I went to high school with. And so he knew me. And I kind of knew him, but I didn't really, but he recognized me, and it was like, George, how you doing? Oh, that's great. We're really not hiring, but we'll hire you. And
But
that was unfortunate. They didn't hire both, but I mean, they hired us both. And then after a couple of months, then Don became a waiter as well. And then I had a number of different costumes over the years, but my favorite costume was a Superman costume, and I called myself Supperman, Superman's cousin, able to eat tall buildings with a single bowel. And and then I was the Flash. I was the world's fastest waiter, and I remember the opening night I screwed up an order for a Roman orgy, and I don't know what happened. Whatever. The people waited for hours for their dinner. And then, then I'm supposed to be the world's fastest waiter. That was ironic, And then I was dressed up. I probably couldn't do this now, but at the time, whatever, But it was I had this costume, and I was like a Chinese man,
Oh, I remember.
And, and I was Chen Zit. Chen Zit, the world's most famous acne puncturist, and I was, anyway, the kinky chinky with the stinky pinkies. I was a part-time gynecologist also, but kind of politically incorrect now. Back then, I guess it was pretty questionable as well.
At that time, it was you had TV shows like All in the Family, or the Jeffersons,
sure,
or the Gong Show, or Laugh-In. I mean, you had it where the civility of America was actually kind of civil at that time, because we could all joke with each other's background and ethnic and religion, and I thought it actually brought more people together. And
no, I think I totally agree with you. But I get it. But I certainly would never kind of do that sort of character now, But I was also Jaws. I had a shark costume, and that was a lot of fun. I was Picasso, the house painter. I had these overalls that were splattered with paint. They looked like a Jackson Pollock painting, and I said I was Picasso, the house painter. And so there was a number of.
You had a lot of costumes. You did. Did I lose you there?
Orders and stuff without talking. That was kind of fun, Right. And Don, I think Don was Groucho Marx. Yeah. And it was kind of fun when he was Groucho and I was Harpo, and we would kind of clown around together, and that was great fun. And Joe Puglisi, he was like a bumblebee. Right. And Chick, what was your costume?
I was originally the Green Lantern.
Oh, that's right.
And then I was Harvey the Invisible Rabbit.
Oh, yeah.
But my getaway costume, which, all of your costumes, you could just make up all kinds of slanderous, fun humor, right? Yeah. I was Harvey Horntoad, the Texas Horny Toad.
Oh, right.
So
That's right.
I could get on women's laps. I could hump guys' legs. I could make anybody laugh. Going, we want to see the horny toad. We want to see the horny toad.
Yeah. Hey, save it for the shrink, So, that was a lot of fun. I mean, it was kind of a new thing, that whole waiting tables in costume and singing and kind of entertaining the customers, and of course I had a theater background and we were doing Key Flow Turtle and all these other kind of weird performance events and that sort of thing. So it kind of it felt really natural. It was a lot of fun. A lot of people was like, oh, I would never want to do that. I wouldn't want to sing and wear costumes and act silly. And it was like, that's what I do best. You know? So
and you can get away with it. And you get away with it.
You get away with it. You get paid for it.
Yeah, you get paid for it while people are dining and spitting their food out.
Yeah, exactly. And squirting their cocktails out of their nostrils. So but it was a lot of fun. And I don't know. It was real interesting because a lot of the people that worked at the Time Machine were people that were affiliated with Key Flow Turtle and that were affiliated with Samoma later on, and then many of the members became the musical band that we had, the Number 2 Dinners. I mean, it was pretty interesting how cohesive kind of things stayed and morphed a bit, but then kind of lost people and added people, and but it was kind of interesting how closely knit we were for about 10 years while all of this was going on.
Well, I thought was extremely interesting was that here you had a German conservative family, Jim Haslacher. And at that time he owned probably more than 20 Jim's coffee shops, which were like notorious. Like everybody wanted a Jim's coffee shop in another city in Texas, but it primarily stayed there. Maybe went to Austin, maybe one.
Well, they had Frontier hamburgers also.
Right. And that was the beginning because he would sell watermelon slices in Breckenridge Park and then open up Frontier Burger. But they would be, Jim and Viva Haslacher. Yeah. And everybody would. It was interesting because as conservative as they were, as many business associates as they brought in, you could just you'd wonder how far you could go with the joke, and they seemed to hang in there, and they seemed to let it run. I mean, I never remember Jim ever going to Neil Miller or Kurt Fonsteel or Tom Stark or any of those managers and going like, that joke that George told, maybe we should cut it back a little bit.
I don't think they heard most of them, but that's okay. No, it was. They
were the most unlikely people that I would have ever met. In the San Antonio business community.
Yeah, you would never think that they would be behind the crazy magic time machine where the waiters dressed around in costumes and sang and entertained people. It was so far removed from the Jim's coffee shops and the Frontier Burgers.
And a men's bathroom that had Playboy centerfolds plastered all over the walls.
Oh, that's right. I forgot all about that. Yeah.
And there was no redacting anything in those centerfolds.
Yeah.
And like every 11-year-old kid was asking his mom, can I go to the bathroom? Because they had told one their buddies to another, and could you take my son to the bathroom? Yeah, sure. When Daddy went, it was going, you can never go to the bathroom again. But Daddy was in there longer.
It was fun, and it was kind of amazing how protective we were with the Haslachers. I remember there was one evening where some old redneck guy was really drunk. That was the problem. It was so popular that people went into the bar disco area for hours to get a table. And by the time they came to the table, they were drunk as shit, you know?
That's right.
I mean, they were just wiped out. And I mean, this one guy, we had to kind of get their food right away and then be like, you know, cut the comedy there, Batman. Bring me my damn food, you know? And, but I remember this one guy, was really upset, and Jim Haslocker actually was there that evening, and he walked up to the table and said, "Oh, you know, good evening, I'm your host, Jim Haslocker," and the guy said, "Listen here, ass licker, you know, I don't care who the hell you are," and we all heard that, and we kind of rallied around Mr. Haslocker, and we were really ready to just beat the crap out of this guy, you know.
Right.
But he de-escalated it and was very kind and kind of comped the guy's dinner, which he shouldn't have. The guy was just a complete asshole,
right?
You know. But I'll never forget. You know, when Jim introduced himself as Haslocker, and the guy said, "Listen here, ass licker." we almost started laughing, but it was such a tense situation, you know.
Right.
And Kip was there, and Kip was a huge guy.
Oh yeah.
You know. And Kip was just ready to tear that guy's head off, you know.
Oh yeah.
And but yeah, it was a lot of fun until it wasn't, you know.
Right. So
you know, it's like as with everything, it just kind of it ran its course, at least for me. And then I got my scholarship to go to the University of Chicago, so I left in '79, and but it was just a lot of fun. A lot of crazy good times.
Well, that's a good jumping off point. So you go to Chicago, you get your scholarship, and what are you studying? What degree did you get there? And like how long were you there?
I got my MFA. I got my master's degree, as if art can be mastered. But I thought, because I went to UTSA. I went to Southwest Texas for a while, and then I dropped out, broke up with my girlfriend. I was brokenhearted, blah, blah. I just dropped it. I literally just stopped going. I got all incomplete. It was so stupid. I had to go back to, when I went back to college, I tried to apply to Trinity, but my grade average was so horrible because I had just dropped out of Southwest Texas and got all incompletes and Fs in all the courses. And
well, it wasn't that your GPA was horrible. It's just that your bank account didn't have enough money, or Trinity would have accepted you.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think it was both. And but looking back on it, it was fine because UTSA had just started up, I think, a few years prior to that. It was brand new. There were like maybe 3 buildings out there at the time. It was, you know, and the art department was one of them. And so they had a great art department, and met Ron Cohen and David Story, who we showed at Sonoma. We showed Ron Cohen at Sonoma. We showed a number of the professors at SAC and Trinity and UTSA at Sonoma.
Hey, didn't Ron have that house up on that hill where Fiesta, Texas is, when he was teaching there? And it was like a windy road. He had a small house up there in the oak trees. And because I remember going to a party up there, man, what a great fucking party that was. Yeah. Ron was very instrumental. He's a great guy, great artist. He had 2 shows at Sonoma, right?
And just fantastic show. He opened Sonoma actually with he had all these different radios in paper bags.
I remember that show.
Turned on to different channels, so it was kind of He was doing artworks. He used to show at the McCartney Gallery here in New York in the late '60s and early '70s, and then he left and came to San Antonio. He was a conceptualist, so he was doing works about nothing. He was doing these artworks about nothing, and then he wanted to do an artwork about everything. So the piece that he did at Sonoma, the first show, that he had radios turned on full blast and inside paper bags, and there were probably about 15 of them, and they were all turned to different channels. So it was just a cacophony of noise. It was so loud, and you had to like scream in order to talk.
Right.
And it was a really interesting opening, and it was great. And then towards the end, Don and I went over to the bank of light switches, and we screamed quiet, and then we hit the light switches, and it turned off all the radios. So it was just, and everyone just stopped talking, and it got really quiet. And then everyone looked at, and then everyone just broke out in applause, because it was such a incredibly interesting moment. It was just such a abrupt, such a bank of noise, and suddenly it was just gone.
Right.
And it was really interesting. That was a fantastic opening. Absolutely loved it. But Ron was very instrumental in getting me to Chicago, and he said, "George, what are you doing in San Antonio? Come on, you gotta spread your wings a little bit. You need to grow." And you're not going to be able to do it in San Antonio, and I can get you a scholarship and blah, 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 So anyway, I applied, I got a scholarship, and then, Don, I remember Don saying, well, you're never going to come back. And I said, no, I'm going to come back. Because originally it was going to be like, you leave your village and you enter the jungle, and you learn the ways of the jungle. You learn how to, stay alive. You learn how to, fight the tiger or whatever, arm wrestle the gorilla, and once you obtain all that knowledge, then you go back to the village and you share your knowledge with your, fellow,
tribesmen.
Yeah, with your tribe. Yeah, you share your knowledge with the tribe, and that was the plan. But Don probably was right when he said that. Well, you'll fall into another tribe, and then you'll just go from there. And he was pretty much right. About that. And but I mean, I continued to keep my roots in San Antonio. I would come back pretty often. I was still in the number 2 dinners for a while, but then that just kind of petered out after a while, and I just didn't really. I was really more interested in pursuing my art career than pursuing music.
Right.
And I think at that time, Don and Norman were kind of more interested, although they continued, of course, with their art career, especially Don. He was always making art and always doing everything. And but they kind of more interested in pursuing the music end of things, And then they went on to form a couple other bands, electronic bands like Batteries Not Included and El Even. And,
so you go get your MFA.
Yeah.
And Don's pretty much correct on, you probably never going to come back. You just beat another tribe and move on. So you go from there. How did you go from there? It wasn't quite
that, but I mean, I did, as I said, I did kind of keep coming back and forth. But I met Michelle there, who I've been married to for over 40 years, and we've been together about 45 years. So I started my life with Michelle there, and then I got a job working at the Museum of Contemporary Art. I was a guard for a while for the Judy Chicago Dinner Party, which is actually permanently on display here at the Brooklyn Museum, oddly enough. I can't seem to get away from it. And but yeah, worked at the Museum of Contemporary Art, and then I got a job with the Tony Shafrazi Gallery. I worked an art fair. It was called Navy Pier, and they just happened to call the museum, and I was there. And my boss said, "Hey, George, you want to work for a gallery in New York for the art fair?" And I was like, "Who?" And they said, "Tony Shafrazi Gallery." Well, back in '84, I'd never heard of the Tony Shafrazi Gallery, so I went to the library, did some research, and it was like, "Oh man, they show Keith Haring and Andy Warhol and Jean-Michel Basquiat and Kenny Scharf and Donald Batchelor. They have the Francis Bacon estate. It's like, oh no, they sound like a really cool gallery. I didn't want to work for some,
well, at that time,
generation abstract expressionist gallery from Florida or something. I'd be bored out of my mind. But this was, they were very interesting, very of the times gallery, and it was an 80s gallery. Keith Haring, the epitome of the 80s, Keith Haring. And he was a good friend of mine, and I knew Jean-Michel Basquiat as well. He gave me a really nice drawing that I still have, and Keith Haring was very generous, did a drawing on a $100 bill and gave it to me as a Christmas present. And that was one of the perks of working in an art gallery, is getting to know the artists and get to learn from them, and also be mentored by them, but also be part of their tribe. And we would exchange artworks. They really loved my Silly Putty work when I was doing my work with Silly Putty. And so anyway.
So even Dennis Hopper had his work there, right? His photography work?
Dennis Hopper. Tony, the owner of the gallery, was very good friends with Dennis, and was his best man at 2 of his weddings. And the running joke was that if Dennis remained alive, that Tony would probably be his best man for the 3rd and 4th wedding. But Dennis was great. He's a very sweet man. I liked him. I liked Dennis a lot. He was a good artist, good photographer, and
that was the peak. That was the peak time of New York, between discotheques, Mary Lawrence, I was working for Braniff, Hearn Harding, and Halston, running the airline, operating the whole look and the whole feel. Yeah. A lot of movement going in and out of New York. I remember when Kathy and I went up to visit, we went over and visited with you there at the gallery. And when you roll off the names of that time period, that was just that would be like working at a dance studio and having, Baryshnikov, as being like one of the guys that's always there, or Alexander Godunov. At that time, everybody who was at the top of their game in music, dance, art, theater, Gregory Hines, I remember meeting him, seeing him.
Oh, yeah.
That was like the caviar of the American society and the global society in New York at one big, smooth pulse. It was hard not to be anywhere in New York and not be around cool, attractive, intelligent people. Yeah.
It was a very interesting time, and
you land there. So you end up being at Tony's gallery. I think you guys moved once, right? You guys moved from one location to another?
No, we moved. The original location was at 163 Mercer, and then we moved around the corner to 130 Prince, and then we moved to Then we moved to the other corner, and that was 119 Wooster, and then we moved to Chelsea over to 26th Street. So when I was with Tony, we moved 4 different times. Crazy. That was so hard to move a gallery and all the art, and oh my God, it was such work, but it was great at the same time. It was really fascinating, and because we were showing people like Keith Haring and Jean-Michel Basquiat and Warhol, we showed Picasso a number of times, and we had Dennis Hopper, we showed David LaChapelle. It just kind of goes on and on. Kenny Scharf.
Who was walking in off the street to come into the gallery and say, "Yeah, I heard Frank Beard's stuff's up right now"? Who would walk in there that you would just kind of walk them through the gallery with Q&A or meet them that,
Oh, yeah, no, it's interesting.
Grace pop in? Who popped in,
Well, everyone popped in. I met so many people. Because the work that we were showing was really kind of cutting edge of the time, and but it was the rich and the famous, you know, because they had the money and the culture and the taste to buy art, you know. But it was a lot of musicians. I mean, like Mick Jagger and Anthony Kiedis and Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Leonardo DiCaprio would come in a lot. He was a big art collector. His dad, George DiCaprio, did underground comics. He did cocaine comics, which I think is really funny. In the early 70s. Yeah, no, typical. And Leonardo DiCaprio's mother was a photographer as well. But you know, Sir Elton John, and you know, David Bowie came in. Really, really nice man. Mick Jagger, not so much. He was kind of, you know, reserved and kind of didn't want to deal with anyone other than Tony and that. But, you know, the one time that was really interesting was when Paul McCartney came in. And it was right after Linda McCartney had passed away. And Linda was from New York. Her name was Linda Eastman.
Right.
And,
Eastman Kodak.
No, it wasn't. She wasn't the Eastman Kodak. A lot of people think that because she was a photographer, but she wasn't. Her brother John Eastman was a lawyer that worked a lot with artists. I think he was Willem de Kooning's a lawyer. He was also Paul McCartney's lawyer. You know, through Linda. Maybe that's how he met Linda. I'm not sure, but I remember Linda. Paul and Linda had a farm upstate,
right?
And one of our artists was really good friends with Paul McCartney and Linda, and he designed sets for Wings, and his name was Brian Clark, and he was an English artist. Tony Shafrazi, the owner of the gallery, went to school in London. He was educated in London, so he had a lot of English connections, and so. When Linda McCartney died, Brian Clark did this. He was a painter, but he also worked a lot with stained glass, but kind of monumental, like architectonic stained glass, like stained glass that would be, you know, on the side of a skyscraper or something like that. I mean, just monumental panes of glass and that stuff. And then he would incorporate photography, and it was kind of really state of the art. It wasn't like Tiffany stained glass with little tiny pieces. These were like gigantic big sheets of glass. Yeah. And he would incorporate Linda McCartney's photography in the work a lot. And anyway, so he did a piece in honor of Linda McCartney, and then Paul McCartney was in town for her memorial service, and then he came by the gallery to see Brian Clark's piece on Linda, and it was beautiful. It was it's called Running Wall, and the Corning Museum here in New York purchased it as part of their permanent collection. So if you ever go to the Corning Museum, you could see this piece on display. It's called Running Wall. It's like 15 feet high and 75 feet long. You see 7 different panels of glass, and right in the center of them had this very abstract flower, and it was a lily of the valley, which was Linda McCartney's favorite flower. And anyway, so before Paul McCartney came to the gallery, he went to their farm and dug up a few of Linda's lilies of the valley plants, and gave them to us at the gallery when he showed up. And everyone gave them to me because they know that right next to my house here in Brooklyn, it's the oldest community garden in Brooklyn. It's called Annie's Garden, and I take care of it. I've been taking care of it for the last 35 years. I love the garden as well. And so everyone gave me those lilies of the valley from Paul McCartney, and then I planted them in the garden, and they have just proliferated. They're kind of bully plants. They kind of take over. A lot of gardeners don't like them, but I was like, fuck that. These are from Paul McCartney. You know, take over. I don't care.
Yeah. It's like an afterlife. It's like an afterlife marriage from Linda.
Absolutely.
To the city of New York.
Yeah, and they're in bloom right now. So you have these little beautiful little white flowers all throughout the garden right now, and they're really quite lovely. If anyone gets the chance to go to Brooklyn and come by Union Street between 4th and 5th Avenue, there's Annie's Garden right there. You can see it. And I'll probably be sitting in there. I'll say hi to you.
Wow.
And my house is right next door, and I always have. My house used to be a funeral parlor 100 years ago, and so it had they took the stoop off, which is the steps,
Right.
Going up, and a stoop. It's an old Dutch term, means
Right.
steps. Stoop, and so, but it was removed, and kind of an addition on the front of our house was built. It looks like a castle. I call it my fortress of solitude, like Superman's fortress of solitude, and. But I like it. The old timer said there used to be caskets on display up above on the roof.
Yeah.
And then I think the bodies were on display. And I said, oh yeah, I should do that for Christmas. Put some caskets up there. And they said, don't you mean Halloween? And I went, no, Christmas.
Yeah. Get your holidays straight, man.
Yeah, Halloween. That's too obvious.
Yeah.
It's too obvious. Come on,
Let's do Christmas.
Yeah, let's do Christmas. So, but yeah, because the front of our house has that weird addition on it. It had these big plate glass windows, and I always have some of my art on display in the front window of our house all the time. So it's mostly my posters that I make. I make these posters, and right now the poster it says. It's nice out. I think I'll keep it out. So that's the poster that's out there right now. People are always stopping and taking pictures. Satan is happy with your progress is another poster that people love. That's a good one. And I can't remember what I did tomorrow is a good one. And one of my favorite recent one is it came out of an old Mutt and Jeff comic, and it said. The more you know, the more you forget, and the more you forget, the less you know. So the less you know, the less you forget, and the less you forget, the more you know. Sounds like MAGA speak to me.
Yeah.
It's great to be ignorant. So yeah,
and destroy the world at the same time. God.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So that's but that's kind of neat because it's people that come by and go to Annie's Garden can also see some of my art as well. So that's kind of I like the fact of putting the posters out on the street and kind of giving passerbys an aesthetic experience, whether they want it or not. And that really kind of came. That really kind of came from Keith Haring, where in the early '80s, Keith Haring would go down to the subway and do his chalk drawings on the black billboards. It's like when you ran out of time, they would just put black paper, and they kind of looked like chalkboards. So Keith Haring would start doing chalk drawings. He became very famous for that. But, in the early 80s, the subways were so dirty and, just kind of scary, kind of ominous. But to be able to go down there and see one of Keith Haring drawings was just, it was so uplifting and such a wonderful experience that I just felt, well, I love that fact of kind of just putting your art out into the public.
Yeah, opens your eyes.
Like free art.
Yeah.
It's not really graffiti. Although Keith got arrested a couple of times for doing that because he's putting marks on public
property.
Public or private property. But it's like it's chalk. Give me a break. And and eventually the police left him alone. But it's kind of that same. That same venue of just putting your art out into the street,
Yeah. Just throwing it out there and let's see what the response is going to be. And,
exactly. And it's usually positive. People are always stopping in front of our house and taking pictures. Or if I'm sitting out there, they start and talk. And, you the one who's been putting those posters up for the last 30 years in front of your house? And yeah, that's me. And I always wanted to meet you. Or it's like, well, you're an idiot or something. I did have somebody write "fuck you" right in front of my house once. So and I was like, really? Okay, whatever.
Did you leave it on there?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I think it was one. It was the poster in the window, and I think somebody got upset, and it said, "I was in bed with a blind girl, and she said I had the largest penis she ever felt, and I said, oh, you're pulling my leg." Yeah. And I think somebody got really upset about that. You know, was it the blind girl? Was it the word penis? Whatever.
Was it leg?
Yeah, was it leg? You know, and I thought, well, maybe it has to do with being in bed with a blind girl. So I actually made another poster, and I said I was in bed with a blind guy. I was in bed with a blind boy, and he said I had the largest penis, and I said, "Oh, you're pulling my leg," and then nothing, no
response. Yeah.
No response. So I was sort of like, okay, well, whatever. Yeah, I guess it was the blind girl. I don't know. Nobody had a problem with me having sex with a blind guy.
Blind girl.
It was that blind girl. You know?
And all the blind women are going, when is somebody going to have sex with me?
I just did. And I'm done. Yeah.
Everybody gets it. Hey, so before we close, tell us about you showing your art in galleries in New York. Because you have one now, but you've shown around New York. You know, I mean.
Oh yeah. I mean, the whole time I was working at the gallery, I was, I always maintained my identity as an artist as well. I was not only the guy who worked at the gallery, but I was an artist myself. And Tony actually even let me exhibit at the Tony Shafrazi Gallery once. I did like a double silly putty painting there. That was fantastic, Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, it was always a little difficult. It was kind of caught between two worlds, trying to be an artist and working for a gallery, and with that showed, Picasso and Keith Haring and Jean-Michel Basquiat. It's like, well, I'm an artist too. It's going, oh God,
why can't I be up there with them?
And no, but I was. I mean, that's what it was. Kind of kept you humble. In a weird sort of way, but also it was a great learning experience, and it just kind of kept things in perspective, and it just continued to inspire me to continue to be an artist. I'm sitting here and talking to you, and I'm working on a painting right now. Nice. So it's nice. It's great, and the fact that so many of these people are dead now, like Keith Haring's dead, Warhol's dead, Picasso's dead, Francis Bacon is dead, Dennis Hopper is dead, Donald Batchelor is dead. I mean, it's just like so many of the artists that we represented are gone. Yeah.
That window got small, it was huge, but when it closed with a lot of significant.
It seemed artists. Like it. I mean, there's plenty of artists, and there's always artists that are coming and going, and plenty of great artists that are still making art and still around. But I just, and our dear friend, Don Evans, passed away. So many great artists in San Antonio passed away. I mean, Gene Elder, Jim Harder, John Rogers, Don Evans.
This is gonna. I don't know if you had.
I don't want to get morbid or anything, but it's like, damn,
Yeah, I don't know if you had this opportunity. I did. I did my best to get the acquisition of Don's cell phone. Don would do this incredible art pieces on his cell phone, drawing with his fingers and with the back end of, pens with pen caps.
Oh, yeah.
And his work was unbelievable. I mean, so like he latched into, I want to consider him one of the first digital artists using that platform. Okay. He wasn't going off and using an Adobe. He wasn't going off and using some artist software. He was actually implementing with the palette that the Apple phone had. And when I was looking at these works that he had, and then he passed, and then I asked Phil, he goes, yeah, I still got it around somewhere, chick. I reached out a couple of years ago on by, and I reached out to Joe, and I said, hey, Joe, like, have you seen Phil around? Yeah, you know, once in a while she'll show up somewhere. I said, well, I need to get Don's phone because I wanted to publish his works off that phone.
Yeah.
And I mean, they were incredibly powerful. I considered it some of his best works.
I have a lot of them on my phone because I remember that show that we had at Texas Pop. I kind of surprised Don, and I printed a bunch of them up.
Oh wow!
And gave them to him.
Okay.
And so no, they're fantastic. I mean, Don was always such an incredible artist anyway. So kind of whatever medium he
got his hands on,
he would do really great work on. And I particularly love the his phone art.
Yeah,
just fantastic, and I'm glad I do have quite a bit of it. I think it would be a great thing to publish. As you know, I published a book on Don.
Yeah,
and self published it, and then Joe helped, and my friend Renee Perez helped put this book together on Don, which is I think just a fantastic book. It was kind of really my personal collection of Don's work, and
I got a copy of it upstairs in my living room on my coffee table.
Yeah, that's great. I know it's so much fun to just pull out and look at, and I was absolutely heartbroken when Don passed away suddenly a few years ago. It was quite a shock to everyone, and I'm still reeling from it. And I just wish he was still around, that he could participate in this talk. He's quite the character.
Oh yeah. Well,
dear,
he may be able to be a part of that, and I won't disclose to the audience a project that I'm working on in association with you. But I'd like to wrap it up here. I want the audience that listens to Down in SA, whether you are from San Antonio, South Texas, or from around the world that is just visiting San Antonio or begin to migrate and live there. You've been with artist George Horner and myself, the cool kids, getting the inside of the inside, to know that while we were, lived there, grew up there, went out to find other tribes, or tribes discovered us at some point in some time. What made San Antonio in part what it is today and its early creation has been all a part of people like George Horner. So thank you for being with us. All the best, and we'll visit again here in the near future.
Sounds good.
All right. Take care, everybody. Peace.
On my luck. Look out, I'm still alive.